In the midst of the 21st century, events that defy reason continue to occur, which scientists strive to explain. In this video, we will explore a series of occurrences that many label as modern miracles, while also learning about the researchers' perspective on these bewildering events. Given the current level of scientific and technological knowledge, it seems unreasonable to take miracles seriously in the 21st century. However, there are still many people who believe in them, despite scientist Richard Dawkins stating that the 19th century was the last era in which an educated person could admit to believing in miracles without feeling uncomfortable.
Nevertheless, certain statistical data disproves this claim.
According to a survey conducted by Harris among 2,250 adults in the U.S., 72% of them believed in miracles. This belief surpassed other supernatural or paranormal convictions such as UFOs, 36%, witches, 26%, survival of the soul after death, 64%, the Virgin Mary, 57%, among others. Furthermore, in the United Kingdom, another survey conducted by ComRes showed that 77% of the 2,036 surveyed adults agreed that there are things in life that we simply cannot explain through science or other means. 16% claimed to have experienced or know someone who had experienced what we could call a miracle. Furthermore, there are numerous academic works that compile examples showing that belief in miracles is historically, geographically, and culturally widespread. However, if we consider that both philosophers and scientists often regard a miracle as a violation of the laws of nature, how is it possible for belief in miracles to be so widespread?
Or is it perhaps not necessary to transgress natural laws in order to classify certain events as miracles?
To begin with, it is necessary to define what we understand by a miracle.
According to the renowned British statistician David Hand from Imperial College London, everything depends on how a miracle is defined.
In general terms, there are two types of definitions. The first one refers to an event that is inexplicable by natural laws and attributed to a supernatural divine intervention. In other words, anything goes. Anything can happen if God or the will of some God desires it. The other type of definition is based on the idea that something extraordinarily improbable has occurred. Hand argues that highly improbable events are not exceptional but rather very common. We should all expect to experience a miracle approximately once in a lifetime. According to Hand, a mystical or supernatural explanation is not needed to understand why seemingly miraculous events happen, such as winning the lottery twice or surviving being struck by lightning 3 times. All that is needed is a solid foundation within a powerful set of laws, such as the laws of inevitability, truly large numbers, choice, the lever of probability, and sufficient closeness. All of this constitutes the principle of improbability and explains why we should not be surprised to encounter surprising situations in everyday life. It is important to clarify that Hand does not believe in superstitions, prophecies, or the paranormal. His definition of a miracle is entirely rational. However, the philosopher Eugen Nagasawa, a professor at the School of Philosophy, Theology, and Religion at the University of Birmingham, does not share Hand's opinion regarding the extraordinary coincidences that are often cited as examples of miracles. Nagasawa argues that probabilistically impossible events cannot be considered miracles since these events are probabilistically possible unless the probability of their occurrence is exactly 0. In his book, Miracles, A Very Short Introduction, 2018, Nagasawa explores numerous reports of miracles found in religious texts and analyzes surprising examples of extraordinary coincidences. Let's see a case investigated by Nagasawa that illustrates the aforementioned. In 1975, in Hamilton, Bermuda, a taxi ran over Erskine L. Eben and caused his death. Surprisingly, this was the same taxi, driven by the same taxi driver, with the same passenger who had killed Neville, Erskine's brother, a year earlier. Furthermore, both brothers were riding the same motorcycle and were only 17 years old when they fell victim to the taxi. While both incidents are tragic, they cannot be considered miraculous, as miracles are supposed to have a positive nature. However, it is perplexing to explain so many coincidences. According to Nagasawa's analysis, the story of the Eben brothers combines several characteristics that we have mentioned before. It generates surprise and astonishment, surpassing human expectations and control. It even possesses a mysterious element that remains inexplicable to us. On the other hand, as Nagasawa points out,
although a miracle may have occurred, it is not easy to prove. As historians and forensic experts, we must carefully examine the available evidence to determine exactly what happened. We must also strive to convince others and ourselves that a miracle has taken place. This need for self-conviction of having witnessed or experienced a miracle has an interesting psychological explanation.
the psychological explanation that Nagasawa refers to is based on an interesting experiment conducted by Justin L. Barrett and Melanie Nyhoff, published in the Journal of Cognition and Culture.
These scientists demonstrated the existence of a cognitive mechanism that detects when natural laws are violated, and that is active from early childhood.
The experiment was carried out with infants as young as 2.5 months old, and consistently showed that the babies experienced surprise when the researchers made their toys levitate or pass through solid objects, creating the sensation that natural laws were being violated. However, they did not experience surprise when confronted with expected situations. As Nagasawa explained,
it was discovered that babies spent more time exploring toys that violated their expectations than new toys that did not. They even showed a desire to test their hypotheses.
The element of surprise observed by Barrett and Nyhoff in their experiment seems to play a crucial role in explaining why belief in miracles is so deeply rooted and present in almost all cultural traditions. Scientists explain that well-known miraculous episodes, such as the birth of Jesus Christ from a virgin and the transformation of water into wine, share a common trait: they are minimally contrary to logic. This explains why they have successfully spread across generations.
While they present ideas challenging enough to capture attention, they do not question people's conceptual systems.
Nagasawa asserts that these psychological findings support the hypothesis that belief in miracles is widely prevalent due to our cognitive and evolutionary inclination toward transmitting such belief in miracles. In television and newspapers, there is constant reference to miracles to describe extraordinary sports outcomes, inexplicable healings, and supernatural phenomena. As Irish journalist Joe Humphreys has analyzed, we are surrounded by the supernatural if we observe any form of media. We have miraculous foods, miraculous drugs, and miraculous babies. In many cases, the distinction between a miracle and, for example, an inexplicable acceleration of the normal healing process is not clear, as pointed out by René Berthier in his work, 101 Answers to a Christian. Ultimately, a miracle implies the hidden hand of a greater and benevolent power. The Australian rabbi Aaron Moss poses an intriguing question: why do we not witness the miracles described in the Bible nowadays? He offers his own reflection on the matter. In recent decades, science has advanced more than in all previous millennia. Miraculous events no longer require a special sanctuary or relics of holy men. In fact, our days are filled with miracles. The new miracles may be uncomfortable, such as the fact that computers can become more intelligent than humans, or that we have deciphered and modified our own genetic code. Today's miracles come from science. They are more reliable and frequent than the supernatural ones. In the end, what is more important, that the miracle works or that it is supernatural? Just look at the news and events of the world to realize that miracles take place every day. The person declared dead who wakes up in the morgue a few hours later, the car accident victim who walks away unharmed, the lost hiker who survives 40 days in the desert, the skydiver whose parachute doesn't open but doesn't crash, the cases of cancer patients who go for a checkup and the cancer has disappeared without doctors being able to explain it. Let's think about it. These things happen around us constantly.
And it indirectly alludes to God, saying that we should never underestimate the power of the being above.
Leo Camp from Houston, Texas, shares a surprising miracle that invites reflection. He tells the story of a tree branch that broke and fell onto a car driven by a woman. A pedestrian tried to open the car door to free the trapped driver, but another man passing by prevented him from doing so upon noticing that a high-voltage cable had also fallen onto the vehicle. This circumstance prevented the driver from being electrocuted. Although the woman was slightly injured, the witnesses emerged unharmed. Camp affirms, Almighty God was the first one to be there. Megan Schmidt, a columnist for BeliefNet, is another example of a person who believes in miracles. She laments that many Christians no longer believe in them and argues that the age of miracles belongs to the early church when astonishing events, such as Jesus Christ resurrecting the dead or Moses parting the waters of the Red Sea, confirmed the divine nature of God and Jesus Christ. However, she argues that the absence of such miracles today does not mean that God has ceased to perform them. From second chances in life to scientifically inexplicable mysteries, these stories vividly remind us that God remains active in modern times and that we should never give up hope and faith. Schmidt presents the example of a child who was trapped for 14 hours in a submerged car and survived because rescuers heard a mysterious voice guiding them to him. She also mentions the case of Ruby Grappera Casimiro, a woman who came back to life after being without a pulse for 45 minutes. She went to Boca Raton Regional Hospital in Florida, USA, to give birth, but in the recovery room, she lost consciousness and her heart stopped. During that long period, she felt herself floating through a tunnel toward a light. After passing through it, she encountered her deceased father. She said she remembered seeing a light behind her father and other spiritual beings. Doctors used electroshocks and all sorts of methods to bring her back to life, but unable to do so, they informed her family of her passing.
When her husband saw her body, he confirmed that it had a grayish color and was as cold as ice.
However, after 45 minutes, contradicting any medical manual, her heart started beating again. Nevertheless, what surprised the doctors the most was not her recovery, but the fact that she did so without any brain damage, something absolutely inexplicable no matter how you look at it. The community prayer, even when the patient is not a believer, is mentioned as a means capable of generating inexplicable healings.
Furthermore, certain acts of altruism can also be considered miracles.
Eugen Nagasawa speaks to us about the Polish clergyman Maximilian Kolbe, a prisoner in Auschwitz during World War II, who voluntarily offered to die of starvation in place of another prisoner. This act defied a strong biological impulse to prioritize one's own survival, acquired by humans throughout evolution. Nagasawa considers it a miracle, as it is an act of love that ordinary people cannot perform. The close relationship between religion and miracles can be explained by the fact that they are presented as evidence of the truth of certain dogmas and as tools to persuade non-believers. That is why in major religions we find miracles associated with prophets, avatars, saints, or religious leaders, which are inexplicable and can only be attributed to a supernatural power. Miracles include healing, the multiplication or transformation of substances, control of the weather, the resurrection of the dead, among others. Mahoma is said to have healed burns, leg fractures, and muteness. In addition to these, the miracles related to the weather are even more surprising. Mahoma saved the people of Medina from drought by causing a plentiful rain. Jesus Christ calmed a terrible hurricane on the Sea of Galilee and healed the paralyzed, deaf, blind, and lepers. For this reason, the leaders of the Catholic Church always consider healing miracles essential for the beatification or canonization of saints. A good example of this is Mother Teresa, who was canonized in 2016 for having cured a Brazilian with a brain tumor. We also encounter other modern miracles that, for skeptics, may sound ridiculous. Such was the case in 1994 when Diana Dicer from Florida, USA, became the protagonist. She made a cheese sandwich, but when she was about to eat it, she realized that the face of the Virgin Mary was staring at her from the sandwich. It impressed her so much that she decided to keep it in a plastic bag. 10 years later, the sandwich remained intact, so Diana ended up attributing supernatural powers to it because during that time she won $70,000 in gambling. She then decided to sell it for $28,000 on the internet. In summary, the examples mentioned in the text range from traditional miracles to those considered modern. While some are based on religious beliefs and spiritual experiences, others find explanation in scientific advancements or unexplainable coincidences. However, each person has their own perspective and understanding of what constitutes a miracle. Thank you for watching the video. If you liked what you saw, I invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more mysterious and enigmatic content. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. See you next time.